So I think it's just time to start. This is the camera, and to show you, Vanessa, the audience. This is your audience. Now we are all connected. My name is Heiðar, and Uli asked me to take care of this session, but I'm actually presenting a little bit here too. So welcome to you all, and I think we are recording and everything should be running smoothly. So Vanessa Martin, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Sorry, now you're on mute. Now you are muted, I think.
There we go. Sorry, I'll just share this. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Hi there. Right. So my name's Vanessa Martin, and I'm the curator manager at the West Highland Museum in Fort William in Scotland. I'm going to talk today about digital artifacts engagement and the West Highland 100 digital gallery, which has used some game-based technology to create digital assets for the West Highland Museum. So I'll just give you a bit of background to the museum, which is necessary really just to explain our limited resources and how we rely on St Andrews University to help us. We're a small independent museum in the Highlands with 3 permanent staff, and we've got a part-time administrator, a part-time volunteer coordinator, and myself. We rely on volunteers at every level of our operations, from our board right down to visitor reception. Our collections focus on Highland life, archaeology, military history, and natural history, but we're most famous for our Jacobite collection, which are objects relating to the failed attempt by the deposed Stuart monarchs to regain the British throne in the 1740s. And the final rebellion, the 1745 rebellion, happened here in Lochaber. So this year is our 100th anniversary. We were founded in 1922. We've got lots going on this year. We're bringing a big exhibition over from Poland featuring Jacobite portraiture, and lots of things going on online and actually at the museum. But the biggest project and the long-term legacy for the museum will be this project, which is the West Highland 100, which is a digital gallery showcasing 100 of the most iconic objects in the museum. So we started the project back in 2019, and it was originally conceived as an in-gallery experience. The idea was to engage with our existing audiences and develop new audiences. So we are by asking basically who, sort of asking the audiences to identify what their favourite objects were in the museum, and we were going to put these into an exhibition in 2022 to celebrate our anniversary. So the idea was to commemorate the milestone in the museum's history, but however, because of the pandemic, it evolved into a digital project instead. So with COVID, we saw the opportunity to develop our content online. We'd always had the long-term goal to make our collections accessible online, but we didn't have the technology or skills to do that. So while the museum was closed, we took the opportunity to engage online with visitors. In the summer of 2021, we started to attend webinars that were being produced by the Open Virtual Worlds team from St Andrews University, which was focusing on digital engagement during the pandemic. And during one of those webinars, we happened to mention our 100 Objects project, and Alan Miller expressed an interest in basically formulating the project for us and creating a digital gallery for us, where we could showcase objects to wider audiences beyond the boundaries of the museum walls. So the immediate benefits to the museum were that we perceived to be that we needed the expertise of St Andrews University basically to help us connect with these audiences and focus on stories and digitize the objects to create an openly accessible archive. We didn't have the skills ourselves or the financial resources to be able to undertake this on our own. Right, so just go to the next slide. Right. So the project's aims and objectives were to produce an online exhibition showcasing the museum's collection, to use the digital gallery to promote the museum and to celebrate our 100th anniversary, and to engage with existing visitors online and to develop new audiences. Using the audience segmentation classifications from the audience agency's audience spectrum and COVID-19 document, we basically categorized our existing audiences as highly engaged adults, basically culture buffs, groups that were most likely to have missed cultural interaction during lockdown. And they had various tastes and were open to new experiences. The ones we focused on were those that already had an interest in Scottish history. To set goals around public engagement, we needed to identify what they wanted in terms of digital content and what they were actually using online. We also wanted to deliver services that would provide access to the museum's collections and remain relevant post-pandemic. The project was funded in 2020 by the Scottish Funding Council, and we were awarded a grant through the Innovation Voucher Scheme to deliver the project's objectives, which were to place objects in their wider histories, make them accessible to new audiences, and provide safe access to heritage during the pandemic by delivering content directly to users' diverse devices and minimising personal interaction in physical spaces in the museum. So I was actually at St Andrews University. I've just finished my MLit there. So this was part of my MLit in Museum and Gallery Studies. And my core objectives for the project were to actually identify the objects that were to be included in the gallery and provide the photographic images to the St Andrews team, collate all the metadata that was needed using our object files and collections management system. And then we needed to undertake additional object research and provide any audio and video files to the university. And then I also helped organise events and publicity for the project as well. The Open Virtual Worlds team at St Andrews University were responsible for creating the website, uploading all the core content, and they also developed all the interactive digital systems used to display the exhibits. We've had planned in the first stage to use 3D models, 360 tours, more interactive models, but this was postponed in phase 1 because the St Andrews team were unable to travel to Fort William during the pandemic. However, in 2021, we were awarded another grant, and this second phase of the project funded photogrammetry, which created 3D models for us. We did some 360-degree tours, video, and we used audio as well to enrich the gallery further. Let's go to the next slide. Right, so the museum, as I've already explained, we're very inexperienced at delivering digital content. We relied entirely on the expertise of the Open Virtual Worlds team at St Andrews to create the gallery for us, although we provided some content, we provided all the content to them. The first stage was to select objects for inclusion in the gallery. We did this on the basis that the objects had to have a good story to tell to be able to engage with visitors. We classified them into three galleries, three sub-galleries. We had Victorian, Jacobite, Highland Life, Prehistory, Military, Sport and Art, all of these representing important collections at the West Highland Museum. The Open Virtual Worlds team then designed the gallery website at whm100.org, and the objects were categorised into these 7 sub-galleries that appeared on the home page, along with another option where you could browse the entire gallery from start to finish. You could also navigate the galleries to find out more about the objects. There was also a map that was developed by the St Andrews team on the home page, so you can search for objects by location. The content is multi-layered, and it allows visitors to browse the site at their leisure. The website has been designed so that visitors can navigate through the galleries with some sort of structure, but they are offered some choices, but not so many, that they're overwhelmed by the possibilities of the gallery. Right, so my responsibility was basically, I've already explained, that for creating, sort of delivering content to St Andrews, the collation of the metadata, and we had a volunteer team at West Highland Museum who provided, sort of, were coming in and doing photography when they were able to during lockdown. However, it wasn't until 2021 that we were able to develop some of the more interactive content. Catherine Cassidy from St Andrews came to us in August 2021, and she spent 3 days at the museum, and she focused on creating additional content for the gallery. She created some 3D models for us of objects, focusing mainly on the fort at Fort William. So she created cannonballs, wooden bowls, yeah, some really good stuff. She also produced a 360-degree tour of one of our rooms, the governor's room, which is actually from the old fort at Fort William, where the Glencoe massacre order was signed. So the advantage of us using digital photogrammetry and computational modelling in the gallery was that objects could be constructed directly to scale and then reproduced in the gallery itself. And 3D models can actually activate new models of communication and engagement with the public by placing the user at the centre of these operations. So the visitor can control their gallery experience when they're moving the objects around, or when they're exploring the gallery, or in the virtual museum, which I'll mention in a bit. So, oh, I need to go back one. Excuse me, sorry, I've gone back. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so we created virtual tours. Sorry, there was virtual exhibitions can provide alternative experiences to the in-gallery experience, and digital technology has the potential to enhance our collections. We basically achieved this in the 100 Objects Gallery using videos and 360-degree tours, 3D models, anything that would sort of enrich the visitor experience and make it more participatory. A virtual tour has recently been added to the WHM 100 website using the Kula virtual tour of the West Highland Museum 100 highlights. And this is using gaming technology from the Kula system, and it has been developed for us by St Andrews student Adriana QQ, and it allows users to interact with the content more. They can wander around the galleries. There's music, there's a skyline, they can look at video, they can explore content, they can play with 3D models, they can watch videos. It's a much more participatory experience, and they can navigate their way around the gallery as they choose, and it's a really good model. But as a whole, the design structure of the gallery actually acts as a star fan-shaped navigation in style. This is going back to the main gallery, and the tabs, as you drill down, allow visitors to explore the gallery, getting as much information as they want from their tour. Visitors can also use maps to locate objects by their find site, and they can select individual objects that they want to view. We've also added links to blogs, podcasts, video. There's audio that enhances the visitor experience. We've got examples of people reading Latin from Flora MacDonald's prayer book. We've got blogs relating to the St Kilda mailboat. We've got podcasts relating to a couple of important objects in our collection, Strange Plate and the Secret Portrait. And overall, we've just tried to diversify content as much as we can in order to connect with new audiences online. We found that our approach is consistent with the approach of other institutions during the pandemic. Recent UK research by Art Fund concluded that the heritage sector had responded to the pandemic with a renewed focus on collections, but also there was a big pivot to digital, and that was a core theme for audience development from 2020. So as a small museum, though, with limited financial resources and technical skills, we've only been able to do this with the support of St Andrews University. It's not something we could have undertaken on our own. So, yeah, so to promote the gallery, we actually tried to connect with audiences further by launching some online events. In February 2021, we had a grand gallery launch, and it was a countdown of 100 objects in the gallery. The top 20 were those that have been chosen by visitors to the gallery back in 2019 during the initial research period. These had been the purpose of this event was to publicise the gallery, engage with existing audiences and develop new international audiences. The event was free in order to be as inclusive as possible and to maximise engagement. We had 440 people registered to join the event, which was broadcast on Zoom, and we had a live Facebook stream at the same time as well. And the event was introduced by the BBC's Paul Merton. We had a multitude of speakers from the museums, media, academia, and we basically encouraged people to explore the gallery, experiment with their own interests, and also it was to help with mental well-being during the pandemic. We had a follow-up event in July 2021, and again, this featured objects, this time from the Jacobite sub-gallery. This event again attracted a worldwide audience, and it was again in partnership with St Andrews University. We did both these events, and this one we had speakers from Scotland, England and New Zealand join us. The live streaming events were very important for us and for promoting the gallery and for encouraging participatory engagement with audiences. We were able to talk directly to the audiences and engage with them. Catherine Cassidy, as part of her PhD, has been looking and analysing who was attending those events and looking into the audience data side of things, so we can find out further how to build an audience base. So although the 100 Objects Gallery was specifically constructed as an adult leisure experience, we found that the resource has also had educational benefits. We've found that local primary schools have been using the gallery to complement the Scottish Curriculum of Excellence, while they were basically unable to visit the gallery. And although they are now coming back to the museum, we envisage using the gallery for sort of pre and post-school visit information. And we're also working with other Highland museums at the moment to develop a blended approach to learning, where we'll encapsulate digital into educational resources as part of the Highland Educational Hub. That's me. So in the long term, the museums did have plans already to showcase its collections online and make ourselves more accessible to the public. But the onset of the pandemic meant it was imperative for us to engage with audiences immediately. And the onset of the pandemic gave us the opportunity to do this, forging the partnership with the Open Virtual Worlds team at St Andrews University. And the goal of the project overall was to engage with our community and reach new audiences while preserving our heritage in digital form. And I think we've actually achieved that really well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Vanessa. Very interesting to see and hear. I didn't get any orders from Skule, but I'm going to take the, decided myself that we can ask questions if we like. So if there is anyone here in the audience or on Zoom who wants to ask one or two questions, then we are open for that now. Any questions?
Not a question, but not a statement, but we're just checking out the website. It looks really cool. We were just browsing the museum while you were talking about it, so it was a pleasant experience. Very well done.
Thank you. All the technical sides down to St Andrews. It's not something we could have managed on our own. Yeah, we were very technophobic. It was more the fact that we didn't have resources at the museum or the skills to be able to do anything like that. So it's been really useful for us, and having time when the museum was closed for us to focus on digital engagement was really good for us as an organisation as well.
Wonderful. I'm sure they are represented here. St Andrews here at this conference, I think so.
Yes,
they are here, your people. Maybe just one quick question from me, because it's very interesting to see as you are doing this. This is an state-run museum, I suppose. It's not. Okay.
No, we're an independent museum.
Okay.
We're free as well. We used to get 9,000 visitors a year when we charged entry, and we abandoned charging in 2011. And before the pandemic, we were getting 60,000 visitors a year. So we rely on sort of shop sales and donations to keep us going. Yeah. But yeah, I think we get about £3,000 a year from Highland Council, and that's it.
Okay, okay. So the question was a very quick one. The general acceptance, or what can I call it? But what do the museum sector in Scotland generally think about this way that you are doing this, about digitalizing and using this technology like you are doing? Do you know? Can you answer it in a big question like that in a few words?
I can probably speak for Highland Museums. We're part of a network called Museums and Heritage Highland, and like I said during the presentation, we're about to develop a learning hub, and they're very aware that because of the partnership we've already got with St Andrews, that we're along that road already, and it's one that they're wanting to go along. So yeah, I think everyone has become very open to digital, especially as a result of the pandemic, in order to connect with their community and wider audiences as well. There's a lot of interest in Scottish history outside the UK, particularly in the United States and Australia.
Wonderful. That's good news for us here in this conference, that you are interested in these kind of things. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Vanessa. And then I'm afraid you're stuck with me for a few minutes. Next presentation would be mine. If I can find it here on the desktop. Okay, sorry about this. Okay, I hope you are seeing this, you who are on Zoom. Áskell Heiðar, and I'm going to tell you in a few words about a concept called Battle of Iceland, which is located in Sauðárkrókur, up in the north of Iceland. And just so I won't forget, for those of you are here, you can try this virtual reality part that I will be talking about here downstairs. Please do that in the next coffee break. But this project 1238, the Battle of Iceland, started as an idea to create a magnet for Sauðárkrókur, which is a town up in the north, town of around 3,000 people. The project was mainly aimed at first to promote Sauðárkrókur as a tourist destination, and of course add one more stop for heritage lovers in Iceland, and both from abroad and Icelanders who want to learn more about this history, and bring to life a specific part of our history called Sturlunga Saga, very nice words for you abroad to pronounce. And its main events, battles that took place in Skagafjörður and the surrounding area in the 1200s. And those are the main battles that took place up there in the north. And the one who mentioned their first battle of Örlygsstaðir is the one that you can experience in our virtual reality part, and some of you have hopefully already experienced. These events took place in the 1200s here in Iceland, in events that can only be called a civil war, ended up with us costing our independence, ended up with us becoming part of the Norwegian kingdom, and it took us about 700 years to become independent again. It's a complicated story. It's not the most open to understand, but we try our best in our little museum to bring this story to life with help from technology. And the method that we are using is the virtual reality and also augmented reality to tell these dramatic stories. We also use more traditional exhibition technology as wall texts and remakes of objects, as well as sets also. So the main thing is to create an interesting museum or an exhibition with help from technology, not for technology, but with help from technology. That's very important. We want to create an interesting experience and also being very true to the story we are telling and respect the story. We set this up in an old factory buildings, which themselves have some history in our community. There was this reconstruction period from 2017 to 2019. And yesterday there was actually 3 years from first day of opening. And as you can all imagine, it's been all rosy and very nice these last 3 years, or not, maybe. We've had some experiences that we did not see coming, of course. But how we did it was that municipality of Skagafjörður helped the project by renovating the houses, and they own the houses. And a company that I work for, Sýndarveruleiki, which means virtual reality, financed the development of these exhibitions, all production and installation, for roughly about 2 million euros. We own and run these exhibitions, and we rent the houses from the municipality. So this is a good example of how a joint cooperation like this can work. The municipality also runs a tourist information center in the same house, and we share some workforce there. So it's a good cooperation, I think. And these are the houses that we are in, and of course, for you Icelanders in here, I strongly recommend that you visit us one day if you haven't already. So on the left, you can see how the houses were when we started the project in 2018, and on the right, how they looked last summer. And it was a big project, and as I mentioned before, the municipality owns the houses and did all the renovation. The model that we are working with is focusing on these main battles of this area. We use different methods, as I mentioned, and then we have some support operations in our house. We have a little bistro which has local food, simple, fresh and healthy food from the area. We have a little shop which has some souvenirs that connects with the story, and then we have this tourist information center that I mentioned before. So it's we believe it's a good stop for tourists, and we focus, of course, on the experience. This is the houses we are using. The house on the right is where we enter here. In the first house, we have this entrance, this bistro, tourist information center, shop, kitchen, and toilets. And then you enter the main exhibition buildings, which are 3 houses. In there, we have a 360 monitor, which tells the story of one of the battles. We have an interactive Sturlunga, an interactive book, which were made by Gagarin, a very nice part of our museum that we are very fond of, and guests fortunately also. I can show you a picture of that later. Then we tell the main story on these walls here. This main story that took place from 1220 to 1262. This is a project we're working on actually right now, which is projecting stories down to our hands. Hopefully I will be able to tell you more about that later. And then we have here a focus on women on this period of our history. One of the battles you can try out here with iPads in augmented reality. In here we have remakes of weapons, clothes, stuff like that. And in here we have 12 stations with virtual reality, like the one we are showing here downstairs now. 12 booths where one person can go in and try and play our experience, which takes 10 minutes. And we have it, of course, in different languages, but every guest do the same experience in one of the booths. Then on the way out, you have to go through some kind of escape room through one Ágeirsson, which was part of this story. It's not a very pleasant story. It was a brutal and violent period. So making a game out of it was a bit challenging. And then in the end, you can go here and put on some clothes from the time and take some weapons and take some pictures with the family. Photo area that's always popular. So this is how we do it. And what makes us special, at least we believe we are, is this use of virtual reality with interactivity, because we focus very much on this being interactive. You're going to the Battle of Örlygsstaðir. It's a 10-minute long experience, and you are not just watching, you are getting involved. You are throwing stones and spears, and since you are throwing stones and spears, of course, you will be thrown back. So you have to take up a shield and defend yourself. So it's, yeah, you have to really go into it and take part of it. We use PHIVE, HTC PHIVE, and some shock vests that you can see on the picture there also. It's just kind of like an armory when you're completely dressed in all this. We also use this augmented reality, like you can see with the iPads on the lower picture, where we have 30-cut landscape from the area, and you can experience the only naval battle in our history on the iPad. So during the COVID, we worked with Gagarin, made this interactive book, which have really been successful. So it works like that. If you flip the pages of this real book that is lying on a table in our museum, it changes what you can see on the pages, and you can see that a little bit better in a small video that I have. And we also have some guiding lights, of course, to create a good experience, respect the history. And we also want to collaborate with locals, because there are a lot of knowledge, and there are other museums also working in this and with this particular story. Of course, we want to bring more tourists to the area. We want to also be a part of the cultural life in the area. So we have events and activities and even game nights in our VR. And we also want to help to build technical knowledge in the area. Also we are reaching out to other museums, other places who are working with heritage, and we want to be part of cooperation and working with finding ways to use this technology. So we want to be not just a museum, even though that's fine. We have some development projects going on all the time. We are working now on a digital audio guide with AR, but we hope to be running in the summer. And we are working on more languages in our virtual reality. And we also want to emphasize more on development projects outside the high season in tourism and different kind of projects, for example, reaching out to schools. We want to work with and focus more on international cooperation. That's of course why we are taking part in a conference like this. And we have just yesterday opened up our first kind of pop-up exhibition where we are guests in a museum called Viking World, Vikingaheimar in Reykjanesbær, where we have few booths and are using our virtual reality. And we have other places like that in progress. We have got some recognition, fortunately, in these 2-3 years. We were nominated for Heritage in Motion awards last year, and we have been very happy with the reception we've gotten from the local community. For the future, we hopefully see the end of all this pandemic stuff, and we see some growth in our attendance in Sauðárkrókur. We want the museum in Sauðárkrókur to be the main hub and develop projects there that we can possibly export and use on other places. So please, for all of you, let's talk about that if that's something that interests you. Here are some pictures from the museum. Up to the left, you can see our dining hall, the bistro, which is actually an old shop. And there are some pictures there from the museum. You can see texts on the wall there where you can read the main story and also some sets. Here is from our virtual reality booths. They are 12 of them, as I mentioned before, and each person is dressed up in a gear with the vest. Okay, and I'm going to end this by playing a very short video that I hope will be working. Okay, security, something. Okay, sorry, it's on YouTube. I'll just go and find it there so I can show you. Not very professional from your presenter and host, but sorry about this.
That was amazing. I didn't expect it to be like so just circular, like everywhere, like actually interact everywhere with it and be able to see it all. It was actually amazing.
That was great. I like that my chest was like vibrating. And then when you get to grab the rocks and throw it, I think I killed like maybe 5 people, hit 5 people. It was pretty accurate. It was a great experience. I'll do it again.
Okay, thank you. And as before, too much party. Okay, so if somebody has something to ask, then feel free. Otherwise, we can, of course, chat later. Or
yes, are you already developing? You're talking about you were saying that you will at some point have some sort of tours in the like outside in Skagafjörður and such. They mentioned something maybe connected to student or stuff. Is this something that you're already doing or developing?
Yes, we've already started developing some kind of this virtual guide, inside guide, where we wanted to take it a little bit further than scanning a code and getting this audio guide. So we are trying to use, sorry, I'm sure most of you who know more about this than I do. I'm not the technician, but we want to use the technology that you can, the phone or the thing you're working with can know where you are. So if you just press play button at some specific, for example, in Örlygsstaðir, then you will get the audio guide and some AR experience to go along with it. And of course, the big dream is that you can later walk in Örlygsstaðir, where the battle took place, maybe with these glasses that will come one day, hopefully, maybe, these augmented reality glasses, and see the battle take place there through your eyes, along with seeing the nature and the actual places. So the short answer is yes, we have started it, but we were hoping it will be ready for this summer, but it will not be. But we are developing that and also working with locals in Skagafjörður how to do that. Hopefully one day you can, for example, scan Valdimarsson with your phone and see Kolbett the Young visiting, greeting you and telling you welcome or something. That's our dream, but we are slowly getting there.
Okay, so possibly, sorry, follow up. So possibly you would have augmented reality at places.
That was what we want to do. We have hired to us actually now some students who are finishing in HR learning tölvunarfræði, and they were actually just working on this project, how to measure or develop where you can use this augmented reality at the moment, and how weather and brightness and stuff like that in interfering with using of augmented reality. I'm not the expert in technology, but hopefully one day we will get that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Really nice. I have been there. So
Good.
I'm just curious, did you or are you considering some multiplayer cyber?
I wouldn't say we were considering, no, not at the moment. It's fairly complicated. It was, of course, very expensive to set all this up and develop all this experience that we have. We are fairly happy with how it worked out. We are, of course, not happy with how things have turned out since the pandemic and all that. So there are still there are very few people who have already experienced it, but we've had very positive feedback from the people who experienced it. Of course, some people ask, can I fight with him and can we do a multiplayer? But that's not on the agenda at the moment. But who knows, maybe.
But what's the question? Do you have school visits, or are you collaborating with the schools in the area? Yes,
we've had both. We have been working closely with the schools in the area. They are, some of them, fairly developed in technology. So we've been working with schools when it comes to doing all sorts of things in VR, even though it's biology or geography or whatever. We're doing all sorts of tests and using school groups for not only what we are doing, but just using technology in general. But when it comes to visiting school groups, we have, I think now in May, we have around 700 school kids visiting us who are coming to visit the Sturlunga saga. So yes, we are very focused on telling the story, of course, and we, of course, find that kids relate to this kind of storytelling a lot. So they're very happy with how that's working. Having said that, we also very much like when the whole family comes to fight and we see the grandmother of 80 years old fighting and going berserk in this battle. So it kind of relates to people in all ages, which is very nice to see. Okay, then it's back to the future Arnar Valdimarsson, Parity Games. Go ahead. Welcome. Þú bara tekur við. This works.
Okay, I'm going to be trying something complicated. Not too, I hope, but I'm going to share my work computer so I can do like a live and show you the project real time instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation. But I'm going to start with a PowerPoint presentation just to go over the highlights. Yeah, I'm Arnar Valdimarsson. I'm a creative producer at Parity Games. And let's see. It's working. There we go. Yeah, this is our team on my screen, not on yours. For some reason, like I said, it's just good start. Hang on.
You said that at the get like co-host.
You, it worked before. Let's see. Gonna reconnect. Oh. Yeah, I could do it. Let's try this again. And let's see if this sticks. It was working all before, of course, when I tried this earlier. Yeah, there's a lag happening. And reconnect to it. Dropped out of the meeting. Okay, we'll see. It's lucky as hell. We'll see. Okay, this is our team. The only one that actually has a mustache is Daniel, and this was done, we were like posting for Awareness Month. We're situated here in Reykjavik, in Skeiva. And we're making Island of Winds. It is it's just a story that happened in Iceland in the 18th century. It tells the story of Brynja that returning to her to Island of Winds, finding her clan is missing, and there's been great turmoil, and strange hex has been cast over the land. So there's a rift, like from the human world to the elf and the trolls and that kind of the other world, and we're seeing mystical creatures appearing in our world. So she goes on a journey to try to save her clan, and we're using Icelandic stories and to influence our game. What I was going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, this is how we're using photogrammetry technology to get kind of periodically correct assets. Because there are some Icelandic assets, because we're basing this like an Icelandic game, and we needed like Áskell and Strokkur and these specific Icelandic items. And by using the photogrammetry and a great collaboration with museums, mainly one museum in Iceland, which is in Akranes, we had access to these objects to scan and import into our game, so we can use them as like hero objects or mission-related objects and set address certain areas. Yeah, this is the museum I was talking about. It's a lovely museum. It's actually founded by my grandfather, and so I have like vivid memories from it. It was really special to like being handling object that he was categorizing in the I think it's from like the 50s. So it's very special. Let me see if I can, if this works. Do that. It's either the network in this building or the network in my office. I guess. Try one thing. Just gonna have to talk faster since I'm delaying this. So. You can ask me anything as well, whenever. It's no worries. This is very should be fluid. Okay. Yeah. So this is me, very lucky, trying to, and Sylvia, we were in this together. She was like handling the technical pipeline of importing into the game, but we just set up a table like this on a bright location in the museum and did like 40 or 50 pictures of each object, which is enough to build a scan from. And show you. Hopefully this works. Here we have like a rocker. You can actually see the scanning area, and this is just by photography. Just going, and you can see the white spots are the location of the camera. I built this just from this information. Really, I find it fascinating. So we take this object, and then we go into our gaming engine. Here we go. This is a great example of an object. So this was probably handmade by some farmer in Western Iceland in the 18th century, and we can capture incredible details just by scanning this. So what we have to do is reduce the detail in the next step, just so we can use it in our game. And here I have, you see, I created a table for my presentation. This is in our game. And I'm going to show you around a little bit. This is our game engine. And this is traded, which is the first level when you play the game. And as you can see, it looks quite like Iceland. That's what we're trying to get, the yellow, rain, sun, kind of miserable conditions of living in Iceland. And of course, you can see no trees because there weren't any. Mostly, this looks fine on my monitor, so I'll have to slow down. It's very stuttery on this one. Sorry. Okay. Let me go back to my table. Here we have the chest in game. This saves a lot of time and also just gives you you can say this is an actual chest from 1800 something. And these are all objects we scanned from Ágeirsson. Here. And you get like this really worn out effect, like rust and just things that have been used. Also, I've been scanning these. I found like a box of rocks in my house, which belonged to my wife. and this was a collection from her like grandparents. And I found some really interesting pieces there. It's sort of collected in Iceland back in 50s and 60s. So I thought we could use these stones, Icelandic rocks, as a magical item. And you can see it is set up like a very crude layout in my backyard. Yeah, this is the one in entrance. So this is just behind my house. Very crude. Going too fast, I know, sorry. And here it is inside the photogrammetry program that converts the pictures into 3D assets. And after we place them in our game, two. This is how it looks on a table in our world. So you can achieve really, really good quality by doing photogrammetry. And this was kind of the first step in our collaboration with the museum. It was mainly getting us access into the collections. And then, of course, it needs some canon on the other side to use this if they want to use our knowledge or this learnings on the other side, like the museum sites. So we're open to like help them in any way or form if they want to explore like photo. I think the future would be like they're doing in the previous presentation, like scanning objects and showing them in museums is a really, really cool idea. And also just think if you lose the collection, you could worst case 3D print it afterwards. And then you actually have the actual object. A copy of it at least. But you can see these are the. Let me end my presentation by showing you a little, if it works. Here, a video I did. No, I was going to play it off YouTube. Okay. So this should just work. Should have started with this maybe.
Ég hef búið á eyjunni ævilangt. Hér kynntist ég bæði fegurð og grimmd. Hékk á hóreminni og auðug þóttist aðra fann. En skjótt skipast veður í lofti. Dulin öfl dvelja nú í dagsljósi. Myrkur hristir láð og lög og raskar heimsins ró. Eigi má sköpum renna.
Yes, we're sponsored by Mjólka. Just so yeah, that's me. I'm sorry about the technical issues. This was a fragile kind of setup. Of course, it broke.
Tack fyrir. Thank you. Very interesting to see. May I ask, when it says in 2022, is it?
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. We did this trailer last year.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
might go to 23.
Work in progress. Looking good. Any question?
What I've seen like the whole cinematography and animation presentation she did before, but what actually is the gameplay like in this game? Is it an action adventure game? Is it an
Yeah,
explorer?
it's a story-driven adventure RPG light. It's
Okay.
not, but it's mostly puzzles and kind of going through a story unlocked by puzzles, step by step.
Okay.
But with some exploration possibilities. And
Yeah.
kind of roaming.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So we have two more presentations to go. Sif, Baldursdóttir.
Hello,
Sif, hello.
can you see me?
Hi, we can all see you.
Lovely. Then I will start sharing my screen.
Yep, wonderful. Go ahead.
Let me
All
see.
yours.
Okay.
Great.
Is it okay, like this.
Yep,
Can I
wonderful.
move this? Yeah. Okay. Everyone can see. So I'm going to talk about gamifying the learning experience for heritage sites and museums with location-based app content, and talk about our or the company that I work for, Locatify's part in making stories of the past come to life. Hi, my name is Sif Baldursdóttir, and I am the sales and marketing director at Locatify. I'm from Iceland, as you can probably guess, but I'm based in Sweden at the moment, so that's why I'm joining you from Zoom. I'm going to talk about the company, our philosophy, and our products, and how we enable gamification in every learning experience. So just a short introduction about Locatify. It's an Icelandic software development company founded with the goal of harnessing the latest mobile technology to share local stories with travelers. It was founded by Steinun, a teacher, and Leifur, a programmer, who are married. Since then, the company has strived to combine their passion for education and storytelling with a commitment to technologically driven solutions and made many more apps. Locatify uses location technology to trigger media content in the right places with the use of our Creator CMS content management system. So, our product offering. We have two of our own apps, our shared apps. We have Turf Hunt for treasure hunt games and Locatify Smart Guide for tour guides. And those of you who maybe know our products will see that this is the updated user interface that we are working on integrating these days. So it's not how it looks right now, but it will look like this very soon. We also offer white label template apps that can be fully branded with client branding. They can be customized and used to host multiple treasure hunt games and tour guides for users to enjoy on location or virtually. We also make apps for museums and nonprofits and just any type of situation where people want to use location-based content. So our creator CMS is the backend to both our apps and our clients' branded apps. It's a cloud-based content management system, and it enables anyone to easily create and publish treasure hunt games, tour guides, and other location-based app content. Customers place pins representing physical places on the map where they want to trigger media content like audio, video, text, and challenges. They can choose the radius, and when a player enters the radius, the app will trigger the content. Projects can be published to our apps in seconds for anyone to download and access. The user only needs to be connected to the internet when the project is downloaded, so it can also be used in places without mobile connection. So our location-based treasure hunt games feature multimedia default content, image, audio, video, and text. The ability to easily add content in multiple languages. We have multiple gameplay modes. We have an online scoreboard where each game has a unique scoreboard where you can view and export uploaded game content, view player locations, edit player scores, and send players a message. And then we have a few different types of challenges. We have a memory card game in 3 different difficulty levels. We have multiple choice questions, single answer written text questions. We have different types of photo challenges, either plain or with stickers, or you draw on the photo, and then you can also draw on a canvas. And we're constantly adding more, so that will be updating soon. So what we are trying to do is enabling creative and informal learning. Smartphones, they often get a bad reputation and tend to be associated with isolation, but let's face it, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So by connecting learning to physical places, by encouraging exploring and solving clues, you can gamify any learning experience and lend an aura of informality to learning activities. So, let me see. Locatify has been involved as a technical solution partner for trialing various technologies for heritage organizations. Solutions include location-based content for heritage sites. For example, this augmented reality treasure hunt game app that's a part of an exhibition of the medieval monastery at Skriðu in Fljótsdalur. The game is designed to encourage education through an innovative use of augmented reality technology. Players learn about the history of the monastery through treasure hunt style and quiz games, and players search for clues and treasures using their phone cameras and sensors. The game involves customization of your character and a scoreboard of game progress as users navigate their way through the site and exhibition. Just going to see if I can play a short piece of this video. Yes, let's continue. So, ultra-wideband. We have trialed ultra-wideband for heritage sites, and we use it because it delivers a high level of positioning accuracy. It's mounted anchors that track objects with physical tags, and the location updates every second. This is, like I said, very accurate technology, but it's costly and requires infrastructure, both the installation and the connecting of the anchors. So we have used this in Skriðuklaustur and the story of gardening at the Newt in Somerset, England. here I'm going to show you the video. Well, I'll just tell you about it first. So at Skriðuklaustur, an immersive experience of the detailed 3D model of the Skriðuklaustur buildings was facilitated using ultra-wideband. Locatify set up an ultra-wideband anchors for accurate positioning of the visitors to allow them to walk around the virtual cloister buildings using a VR headset. I'm going to show you also. Okay. We have also been working with Bluetooth low energy beacons. So BLE stands for Bluetooth low energy and refers to small wireless beacon devices which use minimal power and send frequent Bluetooth signals. The beacon signals can be picked up by smartphones and used for determining proximity to something or for identifying a user's location. Paired with our apps, beacons automatically trigger content when the user is within a 1 to 2 meter radius. This is a less accurate but more affordable solution for positioning when compared to ultra-wideband. And we have used beacons at Hali, where there's an exhibition dedicated to the great writer Þórbergur Þórðarson, and at the Altheimar Museum, located at the UNESCO World Heritage Site Surtsey volcanic area on the Westman Islands, in an exhibition focusing on the 1973 volcanic eruption. Here I just added a demo because we have a new addition of a virtual feature where you can play treasure hunt games remotely. Usually we only had the option of having to physically be in the location for the content to be triggered, but now we also have a feature where you can click on a pin to activate the content manually. So I made a Christmas game. Sorry about that. I know it's not Christmas, but you can still have a look if you want to. Either if you go to our app, Turf Hunt, you can either go to redeem invitation and use the invitation code Christmas demo, or you can scan this QR code from the app to have a look at the types of challenges that you can make. And thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Very interesting to see, and would be very interesting to try this out one day. Oh yeah.
I was thinking when you were talking about your museum that you should talk to us.
Yeah, I know. You've already done what I'm talking about doing. So very nice. Questions from the audience here?
Thank you. So I'm curious to know, with your AR options in the CMS now, like if you get your solution now, can you just enter some augmented reality scenes with your system as it is now?
Can you tell me? I didn't hear what she said.
Oh, sorry. She was asking about the augmented reality part.
Mm-hmm.
If it's
like on the fly, kind of the customer buy a solution and create.
Can a customer buy your solution and create from at the moment?
We're adding it actually very soon. We're working on integrating AR to our platform, but right now we're making it for a client, for a branded app, a customization, but we will be adding it to our platform very soon. It will still involve some type of Unity integration, but yes, soon you will be able to use our platform and AR.
Okay, wonderful. Very exciting.
Yes.
More questions, or if not, then thank you very much, Sif. And last but definitely not least is Ásta from Gagarin, and you are going to do this here in person. So I'm going to find your presentation.
We're talking so much about heritage, actually, but that's in another room. Lepke, my colleague, is talking about heritage projects.
Okay, so you are, you want to share this, of course. Okay, I should move away, so you give you the floor. And yeah.
Fámennt og góðmennt. Nice to be here. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ásta Magnúsdóttir. I come from a company called Gagarin. Yeah, I have to remember the online audience because otherwise I feel very casual with the crowd here. So I'm going to talk about the project called Garden of Choices. It's a multiplayer role play game in virtual reality. I'm going to have a very traditional agenda. I'm going to tell you why and how we did it and what we did. And I'm going to focus on the true story behind the project. It's not the sales pitch. So why did we do this? Well, Gagarin has been working in museums, in the museum sector, and creating interactive experiences for 27 years now. I have been there for 10 years. I've been a project manager, but also in concept design. And now I'm leading this project about climate change education. But we have gathered lots of experience in creating engaging collaborative experiences. We focus on tangible interaction in the museums and to create memorable kind of through body memory. It sits really nicely in your as an after experience once you've done something with your body in the space. So now into the virtual reality, augmented reality. There was this, or there is this technology that's developing really fast, and we of course had to explore how that fits into our context, how it fits for our clients and for the type of storytelling that we have been focusing on for such a long time. And we received a grant from RANIS, the Icelandic Technology Development Fund, to start with. So that's how it started, actually, just to explore how can we apply storytelling with this technology. Then we also knew about a story that needed to be told about the climate crisis. And we had so many collaborators who knew all about climate change and what needed to be told there. We basically, since 10 years ago, most of our exhibitions have somewhat been about climate change. There's always a chapter or some thread going through the exhibition that has to do with climate change. And when I started at Gagarin, we were delivering an exhibition for a Norwegian seabird museum. And the slogan was, "Nature doesn't care, do you?" So, and since then, it's always been a little bit that theme. We also knew about this audience. This project started 2 years ago, and young teenagers were doing climate strikes, and we knew about this climate anxiety, and there was this move from scare tactic to exploring how to communicate things related to climate change. So we had the clear mission when we started to communicate climate change matters effectively in immersive mediums. That's what we know how to do. And then comes like a very long sentence, but we wanted to do this. And I will admit, this sentence was created afterwards. It's not from before the project, but we want to foster an innovative society with deep understanding, caring, responsibility, and empathy for our natural environments and their interconnectedness of ecosystems. So this was the outcome of a workshop with scientists, I admit. How did we do it? Yes, we did study some educational principles about co-presence. It's good to learn together. It's also good to have context with the reality in our stories, that there is some real data, some real context, and also make things personally relevant. The qualities, how can you apply that in virtual reality? Through interaction, through doing things, creating rich environments. You can play through embodiment, be something else, be somebody else, and that in that way empathize with natural phenomena. And you can represent complicated content in data visualizations and make that play with scale inside the virtual reality. So this is our starting points. But we also had our own ideology, which we had been creating through discussions and what we learned when we were telling stories about climate change. And there we realized, okay, we don't want to discourage, we want to move away from the scare tactic. So we want to incentivize, and we want to tap into this care that we can see. People care for the environment. We need more knowledge, we need more understanding, but we also need to be guided and know where we're going. So it's almost like this inner compass that we have. We can know a lot, but if we don't have that inner compass to have the sense of where we're heading, then the knowledge and care maybe is not so effective. This is also very important in our ideology and was manifested quite soon, because at the time there was a lot of focus on the individual. The individual should recycle and do this and that, but it's not enough. We always have to look at climate change problems and solutions from different levels. So what can you do in your community? What can you do in your company? What can you do in your municipality or your country? And then you can start understanding the multidimensional kind of narratives in climate change solutions and problems. So this is our underlying, we always come back to this. So the guidelines, to summarize, is to communicate the relevant scientific knowledge, design playful and immersive experiences, and create some impactful learning through creative thinking. And through that, we hope to provide hope. Our process is based on design thinking and user-centered design, doing lots of co-creation workshops and insight studies, starting there, what is called empathizing with different stakeholders in design thinking, and then storyboarding, prototyping rapidly. And then when we start implementing, we of course have to adapt to scope and technologies, and then test and evaluate with the users. So what did we do? First, some points from our insight studies with both educators, the youth, the museum curators. An encompassing theme there is kind of to focus on what we can do. The youth was really asking, okay, what can we do and how can we know that what is being done is effective? And the educators, they have this concept called action competence, and that relates to what we call the effective actions. So it is like to teach things that will help people to take action. And the museum curators were also talking about, we need a more optimistic spin on the problem. And they also asked for group experiences. That was important. So point of departure was to use Oculus Quest, stick to the 15-20 minute experience, 5 users at a time for youth 15 to 17 years old. And our time frame, we created the project from June 2020 until June 2021. And now we are working on getting it into schools. It was funded by the Technology Development Fund and Climate Change Fund, and self-funded by Gagnrýni. And our collaborators are the MET Agency, the Environment Agency, University of Reykjavik and University of Iceland, Environize, and yeah, Rannis, obviously. So climate literacy, what is that? Climate literacy is, oh sorry, there's a mistake there. It should be big, nature literacy, very important. Data literacy, consumer literacy, social literacy. So this came out of workshops with scientists. Interconnectedness of ecosystems, understanding and having a connection to what biodiversity means for us, and also being able to read these numbers. You hear about CO2 emission, but you have no context. So we try to address that as well. The consumer literacy and being aware of where things come from, where they go to, and then kind of social literacy, if we can call it that. It's about being critical about what you see in the media, understanding that there are different perspectives and stakeholders, and there are different narratives in this. It is very complicated. To explain the problem is not rocket science, but the solutions are complex. So just to run through a little bit of the background workshops with scientists, storyboarding, we had to cut down from storyboards, paper prototyping with youth, different tests, how we would like to have interaction inside the virtual reality. You know, is it going to be some embodiment? What type of collaboration? How can we take action? Then when it came to the production, testing all kinds of styles, ending up with a very low poly style, because we had to adjust to the technology and the computing power. And then also simplifying the environments. We couldn't make, in the multi-user environment, we couldn't make it very complicated with different objects that added complexity. And a lot of user testing with the youth. What do they like? What do they relate to? And listening to them, but not always following exactly what they asked for. We, for example, decided to force collaboration. It's not a competition between them, because we really wanted to hear them talk. We emphasize the co-presence, so that's why it's multiplayer in the same room, and there's soundscape with a speaker, so they have a shared sound, and then they can talk to each other. And they have some individual sounds as well. So that was very important. It's very different from what you offer in Skagafjörður, where it's more individual, even though you walk through the exhibition together. So it's a very collective experience. Oh, yeah. So yeah, now what did we do? We finally created this role-playing game in virtual reality. And well, I thought this panel would be more about gameplay. So I was going to tell you that the gameplay was outcome of all these workshops and insight studies. It wasn't, we didn't start off with, okay, we're going to make a game. And the game is called Garden of Choices, and it's a climate change education for youth, like I said. And here's a short video.
We believe there is hope for the future. That's why we created a virtual reality experience to help you navigate the choices we all have to make about our climate futures. Garden of Choices is our VR experience for youth, where 5 people join together in virtual reality to investigate, debate, and ultimately decide together about the actions they think society should take to reduce our carbon footprint. Every decision the group makes has consequences for people, planet, and economy. Find out more at astrid.is.
So the game has an introduction to CO2 emission, to climate problem at hand. We make the players guess and be surprised before they dive into a game which is a game where they have to debate and learn about climate actions. What type of actions are out there? So there are 10 actions in the game. This is one example. Would you like to apply tourist tax? Every traveler into Iceland is charged the tax of to enter the country. It costs 60,000 kronur for a visit of 5 days or less. Longer stays are cheaper. Staying for a month is free. And then they have to decide together if they accept this or decline. And it's very nice to have, and the questions differ a lot. So this is something you have entered the game. So you have to take it. It's not the only way you could implement this action. It's very nice to listen to teenagers debate these type of actions because they don't have all these presumptions like we do. And they're not trying to show off like, I've read like this study that shows, da, da, da. They're more like, okay, why would you actually do that? And they're observing. And we force the time, so we force them to stay for each question for, I don't remember exactly how long, but grown-ups sometimes complain. They say, okay, why can't we just move on? The teenagers, they always use up all the time to discuss. And so it's been a really nice, lots of nice observations. The consequences are then introduced, and they are always for the planet, for the people, for the economy. For example, with the tourist action, if they would accept, they get 2 plus points for the planet, 3 for the economy, but -2 for the happiness of the people. Because it says here, it could mean that only the rich could afford to visit. So there are some, this is still a prototype, it's not a final manuscript, and it will be in Icelandic as well. When we were making the actions, we were thinking about how it triggered discussions, should not be too easy to say yes or no. Something out of the box also, something a little bit weird, fun, absurd. There is a problem, you know, because we haven't, the actions are supposed to be global, but some of them have to be local. So this is a challenge for us to make this local yet global. And we are working on that. Because this is made for the Icelandic schools, we did also look into the action plan of the government. So some of the actions are like directly or rewritten from there, because we want to train that vocabulary that is being used. But at the same time, we want to teach, okay, there's only one atmosphere. We have one world. And this is it's an interesting challenge when you're talking about climate change, because you have to be very site specific, but yet global. You can't be just either or. Yeah, and the consequences. Yeah, the setup in schools is maybe not so relevant here, but it's like how you can have these headsets go between schools. It's not, we're not forcing every school to own their headsets. And we think of it, it's going to be kind of a carousel in the school. So 5 students are doing this, and 5 groups of 5 students are doing other assignments that are created by the teachers or in collaboration with us. And we are in lots of discussions with different collaborators, such as the educational team at Landvernd, I don't know the English name of Landvernd, but the nature organization, and different and teachers, how we can combine the experiences, how they work together, because it has to have context before and after. There's lots of things you can do with the curiosity that is triggered in the game, and you can take it further after the experience. So we have tested it with lots of young people here, mostly here in Iceland, but also some in Denmark, and teachers and experts, and also the business life and ministries. Few takeaways in the end. The time frame and endurance in virtual reality is kind of differs a lot. So we had to stick to 20 minutes. And that was also very challenging, because you want to have, you want to communicate some knowledge, but you also want the activities. And to combine that takes time, but some people can stay for a long time in virtual reality, but it's not recommended to have it longer. Context is the key. So you have to have context, do something before it and after. and the credibility. Like if you have a game, you are stepping into the magic circle of the game, but still afterwards you're like, but who decided the scores and where does it come from and how real is it actually? The technological challenges, of course, the computing power and the having to stick to the multiplayer setup was much more complicated. We had imagined it was supposed to be more like portable between schools, but with the soundscape and the networking, it was more challenged than we had expected. And that's the technology is just there now. The kids actually like the low poly style. They are used to these video games, very rich visuals, but they don't mind also this type of style. But what they demand is like they want to touch and do lots of things. They want to be able to interact much more. Yeah, I think edutainment in virtual reality is here, and there's going to be more of it. And I think it's extremely important that we do like research-based design in this field, so that we ensure quality and diversity. So it's not just like market-driven and kind of like the low-hanging fruits that we just do like what first comes to mind. Because this was a really interesting process that we had in this project that resulted in this. So we are going to continue, and we did get another grant from Ranís, and now we're trying to co-fund that, and that's going to be about the ocean. And we will do an ocean experience and add to the both a story and some actions related to the ocean specifically. Some insights from like, because we just started the workshops with the scientists, and the emphasis is very much on bringing people closer to nature and provide somehow new vocabulary and allow people to see different futures in the different climates that we are expecting. And then this again, be site-specific yet global and bring personal context and real stories. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the concept art throughout the whole presentation was absolutely beautiful. Whole thing, it's very pretty.
Thank you.
And I'm just sort of thinking, because so this is for teens and they're learning, and I'm just sort of trying to visualize how, like, are there any next steps for them or something that can be put into action after learning this, or like, are there plans for continuing what they've been learning through this game, some sort of practical continuance of the project for them to take away? If you understand.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that is what we are working on. So we had, for example, master students from the educational department at the university creating these type of assignments that you do after the experience and relating that to the curriculum, aðalnámskrá. So this is very, and that's actually what I meant by this, like, context is the key, because that is what you do before and what you do after. And we are just a piece in the puzzle of education in climate change. So it has to fit with other things that are going on. For example, they have like Landvernd, they do workshops with youth creating action plans for their schools. So that's really, and then you are on the level of your school, making actions for your school. And then you come maybe to us and experience this, and you are taking actions on like governmental level. And then assignments after this with teachers in groups can be, okay, you look at these type of actions, but what if you would do it differently? Because that's what they start talking about after the game. So this is our assignment right now, is to figure out how we can collaboratively with the educational system create things that link to it, because it cannot stand on its own. And also, what are the concepts in the game that need to be taught beforehand? You know, like,
Did it answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so interesting.
You said that the youth wanted more interactivity when they're in the VR world. Were you planning on implementing any scenery while they're going through these questions together so they can interact with things? Maybe there's like a tree next to them. They can, you know, find out what type of tree it is. They can search for leaves and things like that. Do you have any plans for anything like that? Keep them engaged with more than just a question?
Yes, we would love to do that, because it's just like you want to touch and you want to show it's I mean, it's not only about that it's more expensive to create, but it's also this balance, like how much can you engage while you're still listening to something. We have like the first 5-7 minutes are just is more narration and they interact a little bit. And then you get these questions, and we would love to have that environment more dynamic and more exploration as well. So it is this balance about, you know, being in like collaborating on the questions, exploring for yourself, and communicating some narratives. So it's a very good question, but we would love to have it all very,
Wonderful. Can I ask one last question?
Yes.
Have you thought about, I'm sure you thought about, how will it work? For example, if a local school in my environment in the north wants to get this, will you be sending the equipment with the game or as a package, or how does it work with schools? Do they pay to get it? Do they, if they own their own stuff, can they download it into their stuff, or what, have you thought about how that will be?
Yes, we have like different scenarios. So we're talking to municipalities and schools how to implement this, and because the business model is based on that it will be paid per student, and we either see that you have there is like a case that goes with the package that goes from one school to the other, and I think I had the slide with it could be. So, and then obviously if the school has the headsets, then we can install it remotely. The other scenario is that there are like places around the country, like I don't know how many we would need to have, like central places where the schools would visit and do this there, maybe in a museum or in some context where it's just set up, and then the school comes there and they do something else with in kind of a carousel meanwhile, and then they come back to the school and they do. And we would like to also relate it to, because you asked about the context. I mean, one idea is also these kind of makeathons that are taking place, and like, you know, stimulating innovation more hands-on. We have been, you know, looking very much into the kind of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and that is being applied more and more in schools. And there are different makeathons taking place. So it's really inspiring to think about how this can, you know, work together. How you plant some seeds in the virtual reality, because we're not suggesting you do everything in virtual reality at all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Again.
Thank you.
So that concludes this. Thank you for sticking with us the whole time. And thank you for those who are listening. And this, of course, has all been recorded, and maybe somebody will look at this later. But thank you very much for everyone who presented and those who were with us to watch this. Thank you.